How's it going? My name is Brent from Encore PPF and Tint, and today we are going to go over the process of putting window tints on a 2024 Toyota GR86. So this one is going to get a 5% on the rear window and 15% on the sides. And then what's going on the windshield?
80.
And then almost clear at 80% on the front windshield. All right, so and then the film that we're putting on this today is the Autobahn i3 ceramic. All the kit for this is cut out using Core. Let's go ahead and get moving. All right, let's go ahead and get this back window cleaned off. So we just spray some of the slip solution on there and then wipe the window down. This car is just more dusty than anything. It's pretty clean. Okay. Not much of that left. That's just a little bit of our tack solution for paint protection film. So that is just 70% rubbing alcohol mixed with water. And that just helps it dry up a little bit faster than just like the slip solution does on its own, so that we're not standing here waiting so long for this to evaporate. All right, and then we're gonna go ahead and put a mist on here on the edge so that we can do our H pattern on this window. Let's go ahead and grab this and transfer it to the car. So I wanna get that to fold in the middle. And then we're gonna set this bottom corner into place right there. And I'm gonna kind of watch as I lay this up the side and make sure that I'm staying fairly straight with the side of the window. And if I am, then that means that the rest of this is gonna lay down on there pretty darn straight. So at that point, when you're new at that, and even now from time to time, a lot of times I've got to go over there, reposition that back up or something, and then go from there as far as laying this down. But that's really close, and we don't need it perfect, we just need it really close. Okay, so I went ahead, lifted the film up. I'll explain that more when I'm doing that actually on the other side here for the H pattern. Let's go ahead and dry off this moisture because that's going to work against us as we're trying to heat this up. All right, so we lift up the film all the way out to the middle where we're going to be squeegeeing from, and we put a little tension on it this way and run that down. And then we push the fingers out of the side and get them on the top and bottom, and then we mount that to the glass. And that is our H pattern. Now let's go ahead and heat shrink this, and I think I'm gonna try something a little bit different today. All right, so my wife's gonna hold that camera. We'll see how that goes today. I'm trying to just get some more close-up of the film being shrunk. It's hard to get the reflection just right so that you can see what I'm doing. And so basically what I'm doing here is just heating up this film until the fingers start to go from left to right instead of up and down. Okay, and then we'll come back over here and we'll push this stuff out. I obviously got a little bit of water right there, and that's why I don't have any fingers in that area and it's staying stuck down. And let's go out to the middle here and get all this all the way down. So as soon as you start to get these U shapes in it, I'll have to point that out later on a different part. Okay, now that we've got that whole bottom shrunk down, let's go ahead and tighten up that edge, because we don't want any little fingers popping up once we get this on the inside, and that just helps ensure that we don't get those. All right, now we're gonna work up here. So you can see, I definitely, you want to make sure you're keeping the heat gun moving. If you stay in one spot for too long, you can definitely burn the film real easily. So if you keep the heat gun moving, it minimizes that risk. And what we're also looking for is any type of like U shape. I mean, this is very minor, but there is starting to be kind of a U shape there, and then you want to push that stuff a little bit out so that it's back going like straight up and down. That's real minor, that's not much of anything, but there was one. You know, I push them out so fast because I don't know, it's hard to talk about it and do it at the same time because I'm used to just heat shrinking so quickly. Okay, and then we'll come back across here, tightening up this edge, and then let's get the rest of this down here. I mean, I'm talking about this stuff, it really slows me down. I mean, I should be nothing more than just a couple minutes on heat shrinking these windows, so. All right, so let's take this down. And as soon as I start getting all these fingers in it this direction, we're gonna push that out. And personally, I believe that it's important to push that stuff out as quick as possible, because then as the film starts to cool down, its memory will be without without the air underneath it. And let me see if I can explain that a little more. So if we let this sit here and cool, if you can see those marks, or the air that's in there, so we've got a couple little ones here, one, then a big one here going this way, it's going to remember that as it cools, and we don't want it to remember that position. See how it really wants to stay there now? So it's better if you get those pushed out real quick. And the reason that those are such a big deal is because once you get on the inside, those are the type of things that can come off the defroster lines with water and air very easily. And so we want to make sure that this is all laying on here really nice and smooth like this. Okay, we want to make sure nothing comes over to the side, because we can't obviously heat shrink on the side because film isn't designed to do that. You can only heat shrink on the factory edges, so not the edges that I cut. So the top and bottom of the roll. Okay, and then let's go ahead and tighten up this edge. We're just looking for anything to move, to get anything to pop up, and then we're gonna put heat on that. Okay, and then let's go ahead and go up with this one. And this is a relatively easy window, and this film shrinks incredibly well. Okay, and as you can see, this is the type of, I call it a U shape or a crescent moon. We want to get that pushed out. It's really hard to put heat on those. They're just going to get tighter and tighter until you can't push them out. So if you're starting to get those and you're like trying to push them out and they're just getting thinner and thinner and they don't want to leave, that's going to make heat shrinking much more difficult. So you want to get those things pushed out before they get to that point where they're real tight. You don't want to be putting a bunch of heat on those, because that cannot be heat shrunk anymore. Once it turns into that shape, all you're going to do is create problems for yourself. Okay, and then we'll start over here on this side and we'll work our way back across the top again, just looking for anything to pick up or any little fingers or air pockets to move around, and then we heat that up and really tighten that edge up. And then do keep in mind that the film does this while you're trying to heat shrink that edge. Get the heat gun away from it as quick as possible, because you're going to really burn this edge, and it's possible that you could burn it all the way up into there and then have to throw this piece away. And then so if that does pop up, you just push it back down and then you go back to heat shrinking. All right, let's go ahead and get a mist. So I don't know what kind of footage we got there at that back window during that process. We'll see how that goes. In this situation, a white ceiling would make all the difference in the world, because we would get a lot more reflection off the film. And so I'm gonna do something about that this winter so that we can get some better footage of the heat shrinking process, because when you're looking at this, you're obviously looking at the ceiling. And when it's white, it makes everything very visible. And so that would be much better for the angles with the camera shots. So you can really see what I'm doing. You can watch the film work and see how I work it. All right, let's go ahead and get this on here. So this keg is just water, and I like to use that for hanging all the window tint on these walls, because we use plenty of soap on these walls already when we're doing like our reverse rolling, or we're grabbing our pattern to take it to the car on the roll-ups. And that soapy water does this. I don't know how much that's going to show up in camera, but can you see all the yellow in there? And then it runs down the wall here. And if you don't clean things up, and there's not much we can do back in there, except for pull the glass out and clean it. So that rarely ever happens. But what I do is make sure these walls stay really clean. So this constantly gets wiped down and then also repainted. All right, and then I'm gonna go ahead just for video's sake and wipe all the bounce pad off this so that you can see, you know, as cleanly as possible and clearly as possible through the window. Normally I leave this on here until I'm done with the install, because if something does go wrong during the install, I don't want to have to re-bounce pad that. You want to be able to just get right back to re-shrinking that. Starting over already sucks plenty bad enough. Okay, let's get the seat up as far as it'll go. And we'll do the same on the other side. Oh, I hate getting into these cars now. I'm getting too old for this. Okay, we will go ahead and reverse roll this now and take this in with us so I don't have to get back out. That is not very soapy. So I'm gonna take this bottle here. Look at that amount of soap. What a difference, huh? Not quite sure what's going on with the soapy water from the keg. Maybe it's been sitting in there over the weekend or something. Okay. Oh, you know what? That's just getting the air coming out. Was it getting to the new slip out of the keg in that line? So the reason it wasn't soapy just a second ago was because that soap had been sitting in the hose for who knows how long. Okay, so we just lift this edge up now. I've pulled this back. I didn't explain any of that, but I pulled it back, soapy water, lay it back down, pull this side up, soapy water, lay it back down. Now this release liner and the tint has soap in between them. And so what we're gonna do now, after we put a mist on this edge, is we take the film, we curl it into a circle, we tighten it up by just pulling back on it, and then we roll this up. I don't know, are we done? What's the temperature? 81. Yeah, let's just turn on the air conditioner. So sometimes it's easier to push those things forward to keep a nice tight roll. I don't usually have to do that anymore because I've been doing this for so long that I can get a nice tight roll without that extra little step. Let's go ahead and set that in there. Let's make sure that we have a towel and that we have all of our install tools for rear windows. So these 5 tools here are tools that I take in with me on every single back window install. And then we'll go ahead and cram ourselves back in here. And don't get me wrong, this isn't even as bad as it gets, right? Really not even close to how bad this gets on some cars. So I'm gonna set this somewhere where I can keep it from unraveling. Like that. Oh, we'll straddle the hump. Oh boy. All right. I'm not gonna straddle the hump. Let's see here. I don't know what the video is gonna look like on this one because this ceiling is so low. I'm gonna have to kind of lay on my side almost here. All right, so we wet everything down. We'll go ahead and scrubby pad the whole window. see a lot more soap now in the soapy water in the slip solution, so that's good. So we definitely made it through to the what was new coming out of the keg. Okay, I'll go ahead and put another mist on that. We don't want anything to start drying up while we're cleaning the back window, because if it does start to dry, it retacks the dirt to the glass, and then you need to break it loose again. All right, get our squeegee, clean the edge off, and we'll go ahead and take this down. And then we'll go across, making sure not to bump into the headliner there, because that will throw a bunch of stuff onto the glass. So if you're noticing you're getting a bunch of contamination across the top, you're probably hitting the headliner with your squeegee or something, or when you're rolling the film out onto the glass, it's hitting the headliner. Okay, so just methodically working our way down. Every time the squeegee comes off the glass, I wipe it off into my towel, like so. We're gonna flip it over now so I can get better access with my whole hand down in there. And then I wipe off my pinky at least, because my pinky is going to be rubbing on the glass. Okay, and that's about as far as we're going to be able to get down without completely running all over the rear deck and splashing. So as you flick across this, it's possible that it'll throw things up onto the glass, and we don't want anything to do with that. And I'm going to go ahead quickly here, and we're going to spray that bottom down and flush it down. Okay, and then let's get a mist on the rest of this. I'm going to try and sit in here. I'm going to try to sit Indian style in here. I don't know, is Indian style still okay to say? It's crisscross applesauce now. That's not what I learned though, growing up. Okay, so we'll take that release liner, roll it around onto the roll, and then let the film come out, and that's how we that's how we expose the adhesive side, and you just roll the liner onto the back of the film now. So we're gonna keep unrolling this a little bit until we get a little bit out so that we can position that, and then we're just gonna slowly work this across. And just be careful you don't bump this up into the headliner. That's very easy to do. Okay, let's go ahead and pull this up a little bit. We're not going to take it all the way off, just because it's not going to be easy to take off right now. But we do want to get it off the bottom or pushing this down, because we need the film to go all the way to the end, and there's always that extra 1/4 inch or so hanging off with the release liner. Okay, now that we got that pushed down a little bit, we can push some of this up and bring this liner off and get it out of our way so we can see a bit better. And all of this stuff needs to continue to go down. If I reach back here and I push on the rear deck, I can see that we still need to go down. Let's check over here. And so you can hold it down, move it with your other hand. Okay, this needs to go down just a tiny bit more. Let's check way over here. Okay, that all looks really good. So let's push this up into place, see what that looks like. And I did end up getting it just a little too far down. You can see there when I'm trying to move this, as it's starting to stick a little, jiggling will help you get that to break loose a little bit and move it. So there's still not quite enough soap in there, but that's gonna happen sometimes. Okay, get all that tucked in. I'm just taking my arm here, pushing across the material, just trying to get rid of, now it's just my hand pushing across the material, trying to get rid of the bigger air pockets. So we're not trying to push those out with the Blue Max. And I'm gonna take this Blue Max, and the way that I do it now is just run all the way across most of the time. But that's because I really understand this process, and I understand what the film's doing and where there's gonna be a problem, because you can easily crease the film with this tool. So what I would recommend for new installers is just to take it over about 6 inches or so, and then start again. You just work it in manageable chunks like that. Okay, now we're gonna go ahead and take this tool here, and we're gonna get some of this bottom pushed out. So I'm just putting it at an angle here and run it across the bottom. And remember, that's just our first pass, right? We've got a whole nother pass, so we're just trying to get the bulk of stuff out with that one, with this first pass. Now we're gonna go ahead and put as much pressure on this as we can muster up and push this out. When you're pushing this out, you should be able to watch water collect on the front of the squeegee, because you really need to be putting as much pressure as you can at this point. And you can see the angle that I have on the squeegee. So as I'm coming straight across, now that first pass I just go straight on with it. Now coming up, I'll angle the squeegee a little bit like this, and then at the very end I'll turn it more straight. Now we'll angle it the other direction, and that's just so that any excess moisture, if it's like this, you can easily have the water hit here and then come out around the top. If it's like this, it's much less likely to travel forward to get around this, and it's just going to go down and go out that way. And obviously then the opposite is how it works, going up. Okay, let's go ahead and we'll take a pass there like that, get a little further down, take another pass. Then I'm going to try to get this tool down in here. When you can use this on the bottom for swiping these edges, this tool gets a ton of great pressure on the edge. It's really one of my favorite tools for those edges. Get that way down in there. And when I put that down in there, I'm twisting like this on it, because obviously we want the squeegee blade running on that edge. Okay, and then we'll go ahead here, come up the side with it. I like running it up the side because it really just gets that extra moisture out of the defroster lines and everything, gets everything pushed down. And normally it'll pop back behind the panel, and so you'll get this edge, the blue edge, all the way back in there, so it pushes the water all the way out, which sometimes with the squeegee, with the Blue Max, when you run into this, you won't make it to the edge. And I'm going to do the same thing across the top, just like that. Now we'll go ahead and take our towel here and we'll wipe down all these panels, wipe down the back seat. We're basically just drying up as much of the excess moisture as possible. I'll wipe that rear deck down, again over here to the panel. Okay, now I'm going to take this and we're going to clean this back window. Okay, we got everything squeegeed and pushed out really well, so I'm just double checking my work here just to make sure that that's a good install. We're going to be able to keep that, and it doesn't need to be, you know, there's nothing in it that's questionable as far as whether it's going to work out or not, because right now would be the time that you would want to be trying to work that out. Because if you need to pull this off, sooner than later is better. All right, because I don't want to be climbing in and out of here, I go ahead and bring this pattern with me. I'm not gonna miss this someday when I'm not tinting windows anymore. I'm not gonna miss this part, climbing in these little cars like this. All right, so I've got some slip solution on there. Go ahead and give this window a little scrub-a-dub. Let's go ahead and wipe this panel all down in case for whatever reason the film happens to bump it, which I don't anticipate, but you know, it might. It's pretty close. Okay, again, when I did my pass there, I was really careful not to be bumping all over into the fabric part of the headliner there. Okay, I'm just taking everything over to one side on this one and then working that side down. Okay, we'll go ahead and put a mist on there. We don't want much because we don't want water getting up in there at all on that edge and bringing dirt down. Same with that, could happen here too, and it runs straight down like that. Let's go ahead and grab our pattern. So I'm going to go ahead and grab this with my fingernail on that very, very edge, which should be in the blackout anyway, right? And we'll go ahead, sneak this in there. Okay, beautiful, no light gaps. That's what we're looking for. Okay, I'm holding the film in place over here, so I'm pushing in the dot matrix, and I'm got my finger up against this as well, plus I've got some fingers against this so that my hand can't just move around, and that helps us hold everything in place for the squeegeeing. My first pass on the squeegee here is probably, you know, light to medium pressure, and then now we're giving it a lot more pressure. If you're finding that it's still moving during this process, then I would say you have too much soap in there. But if you like it like that, then you'll need to still obviously hold that in place even during your second pass on the squeegee. I really don't like the second pass and having with the squeegee and having the film still moving all over the place. That you're losing time is what you're doing at that point. Especially that's going to be a problem on roll-ups more than anything, because you get that top edge lined up really nice and then you're constantly readjusting it. And that sucks. And then you have a much bigger possibility of, when you roll the window up, having it catch on the edge a little and push the film down from that rubber hitting it. So normally we only do half the car together normally, but I figured I'd try and get a different shot on this window. I don't know, just for funsies, because really it's a pretty easy window. So I'm going to go ahead, I got some slip on there again. We're going to go ahead and scrubby pad that, and then we will squeegee the side down first, and then we'll take everything over to the other side. Again, just be really mindful that you're not hitting that headliner. I know I'm gonna be that's a solid broken record thing, but you know, if you hear me repeat things like that a couple times, it would be smart of you to note that stuff, because I'm not saying it for my own good. And that means it's fairly, you know, it's something that I'm really paying attention to every time. So all right, I've got like a couple like things on the glass still there. They're like smudging when I run across them, so I'm not sure what that is, but we're gonna go ahead and re-clean this and scrubby pad those some more, because whatever they are, they're not coming off super easy, which means I didn't scrub that good enough for that contamination there. Okay, so we'll take that down again, and we're going to come across, and really when I'm going across and I'm listening for that, I'm really listening for the headliner. You can also feel it if you bump into it, but you can really hear it. And for you guys, if you're new at this, that may just sound like a the hitting the headliner sound or something, you know? Who knows what that sounds like to you? To me, it sounds like I'm getting contamination underneath my tint. That's all I could think. Oh, that noise means that we could potentially have some dirt in there once I put this on. All right, that's a lot of water. That's a little, really, that was too much of a spray, but it's how it came out. Because we've got a lot of water running down. And that could mean, you know, that we grab some little dust particles from the top and have them come down into our window. Okay, let's get this positioned. Little light gap there. It's not tucking in right there, so I'm gonna bring it down. And then we could even go back up with it. Just kind of move this around until we've got complete coverage with no light gap. I'm gonna grab a little moisture off the panel there. And then I'll hold that in place with my finger. And then we'll go ahead and squeegee all this out. Okay, so we've given that a second, and a lot of that even got like a third or fourth pass on it. This edges got squeegeed out really good though, so the edges should be fairly nice and dry. Okay, go ahead and get on out of here. Yep, everything looks good. All right, we'll go ahead and pre-shrink these, and I do have a video on the channel that goes over this whole process in depth. And basically, we're just putting a little bit of a shrink on this edge so that it doesn't have fingers when we install it on the inside. Now, when I'm coming across this with the heat gun, so I pull up to about leaving an inch or so stuck. You don't want to lift the whole thing up because that kind of messes up it makes it more difficult to shrink. So there's about 1 inch to 2 inches there that's going to stay stuck down. And I am pointing the heat gun basically here, between here and here is where I'm pointing, focusing the center of the heat gun. Is I'm just shrinking down here is where I'm pointing that. And that's how I do those. If you get up too high, we're only trying to shrink that very edge. And so if you don't want the heat to get up too high, you don't want to heat shrink more here than you are on the very edge. And I did put a lot of shrink into that, but that if you feel it like that, that's going to lay down just fine, but that is a decent amount. I don't know if the window really warrants that much of a shrink, but it's what happens. So what happens when I start recording and talking while I'm doing it. Now you can see here that I've got a lot of extras of these little wing windows, and that's because those are free to cut out when you're cutting these out. If they fit in there and there's extra space, I want 2 of stuff. You know, if it's not going to cost us any more material, then just take the time, duplicate things, and fit them in there. Because you know, to change the rollout and then have to go back because you messed up one of these little wing windows is a real bummer. So just having an extra one here where you're like, I don't really like how that turned out, boom, rip it right off. You don't even have to clean the window again normally, and you just go right to installing the next one. And that definitely helps save my time during an install. So just for fun today, I'm gonna try something I don't normally do, which is getting this whole bottom protected with these tools here with the gasket wizard. And then we're gonna put the that door guard over onto the metal. Basically just cleans that off. So let's go ahead and set this on here. Okay, there, and that'll help protect the rest of the panel there. You know, you guys will see in the videos, sometimes I use these, sometimes I don't, as far as these door covers. Majority of panels, you're not really gonna create an issue with getting the panel a little bit wet. You really aren't. Now, some of them, sure, there could be issues, but it's very, very rare. So the first thing that we need to do on a frameless window is trick the window into rolling up. So we're gonna go ahead. This one requires you to latch the latch on the door. So it's up all the way. When you're new at window tinting, what you're gonna do is tint that window while it's down, and then get in the car to pull it out, close the door, it goes up and leaves a light wrap across the bottom, and then you're definitely not done. So, I wish I could say that hasn't happened to me. Probably on more than one occasion when I was learning how to tint windows. You just, I don't know, you don't think about it sometimes. All right, so let's go ahead and get rid of the billboards that are on this. These things are gigantic. We did a car the other day that must have been from the 90s that had some of these warnings and stuff on the glass, and it just blows my mind that people left those there for that long. That car has made it its whole life with those stickers on the glass. Ooh, this one is really on there. And then just fold adhesive to adhesive and put it on the ground. And then now we're gonna go ahead, put a mist in this area, and we're gonna go ahead and razor blade this. And since we have the razor blade out, just gonna go ahead and have at it. Something else to be very careful about with frameless windows: do not cut that rubber right there with this tool or with the razor blade. Boom, all it takes is just tapping it like that, and you cut right through that, and that's a rookie mistake. And if your customer happens to notice that for some reason, you will be replacing that rubber and that, let's just not do that, right? So just don't do it. That's it. Don't do it. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and clean this top edge here. You can see we did get some dirt off of that. And then let's go ahead now and squeegee this off. So down right there. And then we'll bring everything else across. And frameless windows, you just flick the water out into the world. Flip it over so that we can get the contoured or the cut edge way down in there. Now we've got a nice clean window. I'm gonna go ahead and spray this section down and get some water back in there. I'm gonna flush the bottom down, put a mist on there. Let's grab our pattern. For frameless windows, the install is different, so we just go ahead and remove the entire liner on this, because obviously we have the whole window exposed. When with normal roll-ups, you have to do the 2-stage and then roll it up halfway through the install. Let's get this bottom down, and as close as we can get it to the bottom. Okay, then I'm just gonna push that up so it doesn't continue to roll back on me. And I'm gonna pull back on this metal, and we're gonna take this stuff down below the rubber there. We're gonna get that edge nice and lined up. And then let's get this part lined up like that. This needs to go back up. So right about there. And I want that edge as close as it could humanly possibly get. And then it's showing a tiny bit of light here. I'm hanging over a tiny bit there, and then back to a little bit of light here. And that's where I'm gonna place that. So I would prefer to have to come back and trim that edge off just a tiny bit over making that gap bigger in order to accommodate the film right here. Let's grab our squeegee. I'm gonna pinch right here really hard, hold the film in place, and we're gonna go ahead and squeegee towards the front, because left to right is pretty much how I'm always squeegeeing these. So no different here. Okay, there we go. Then I'm gonna go over this just one more time. I'm gonna gonna go over this one more time here and make sure that I got really good passes on that and they were fully squeegeed out. We're gonna go ahead and grab this tool here and we're gonna get this bottom down. So we're gonna get rid of all, majority of the air and water here. Okay. Then we'll go ahead and get another mist on there and we will take everything down. So make sure you're starting plenty high when you're pushing this down. You can see that I'm holding the door here so it doesn't continually do this. That's super annoying. So I'll either hold it with my hand like that because this car's up so high and the door is so short. It's hard for me to get my my leg into it, or I'll put my leg into it on certain cars and hold it in place that way. My leg or my knee. I'm pretty much always holding the door in place so it's not continually bouncing. Let's get our Teflon card here. We're gonna get ourselves a new edge on this, cut a new edge. Okay, and when this starts to curl over like that, if you can see that, I don't like that. So I just take this tool and we're gonna go ahead and snip that off like so. Okay, let's pull back on this metal. And I'm gonna take this top over like that. And then we're gonna push this side down 2 or 3 times. Then we'll come across the bottom and we need to pull this out and come across the bottom the rest of the way. So I'm down below the edge of the film and we're pushing all that out. This all looks really good here. Okay, that's all we need for that one. Let's move on to this little wing window. All right, let's go ahead and get some film on this now. So we're gonna give this a good mist. We're gonna get our scrubby pad out, which is in the wrong pouch, or it's in the right pouch. It's in the wrong pocket in my pouch. All right, let's go ahead now that we've got that scrubbed down. I want to see how well okay, good. This rubber here is basically not attached to the glass here at the top, and make sure again that we're being very careful that we don't cut that top edge. But I wanted to check to see if we were going to be able to get the film. I don't know what that top edge looks like here. And it does look like it's got like a 45 on it, so, but that doesn't fully match this. So I just want to make sure that this could come off the glass a little bit so we can tuck underneath it if we need to. And all of that feels like it does. And then since the blade's out already, I'm gonna go ahead and just razor blade all this. And then again, don't cut that piece of rubber. Clean that top edge, mist. Let's go ahead and finish squeegeeing this off. Okay. There we go. I'm gonna clean this edge off again because I did leave a little moisture on that edge and I'm not sure at what point did I do that and if there's any dirt in it. And then I'm gonna go ahead and just kind of flush this edge down, which then put a lot of water on the panel, which is okay. I just don't know where it's gonna run down to because we're covered up here. That's kind of the problem with that was a lot of water too, so I just didn't, I don't like that being there. But it is kind of the problem with these is if water does get back in there and you're worried about the panel getting wet, you won't know it's back there really. And so that's one of the things I dislike about these things. But that's for a different day on a different car. This car doesn't matter. Okay, let's get this picked up. I'm gonna go ahead and pinch right here with my fingernail on the bottom. Bring this around. I'm gonna lay this into my hand like this. We're gonna lay this bottom in first, and then we're gonna go ahead and let this go up and into place. So I can see here Let me grab my tool though. Oh man, oh there it is. Fell out. It fell out in the car. Okay, let's go ahead and get this pulled up because this needs to go down. And then we need to kind of, well, I don't want to push the whole pattern way down in there, but it's doing it anyway, so that's fine because we need to bring this down low enough so that we could tuck this film up underneath this piece. And that's basically what I was kind of anticipating might have to happen. And that's why I was double checking to make sure that wasn't stuck to the glass, because if it was, then obviously you need to have this film overhang it on this side and then trim it off. Or you would need to cut that rubber off prior to putting this pattern on. And I'm not sure, that would be a case-by-case base, right? I don't want to be cutting that rubber really because they put it there for a reason. That's not something I want to be trimming off in an area like this where it's got a seal up against here. All right, so we've done a little bit of squeegeeing there, and I'm going to hold all this in place right here as far as the film, and then we're going to squeegee this out. It's a pretty small piece, so you know, you're in a small piece like this with less area that the film is contacting the glass, a lot more possibility of this stuff slipping and sliding around easier than on a roll up. So this doesn't tack down as well, and the more aggressive you get with the squeegee, the more risk you have actually moving the film around. Let's try to get underneath this a little bit with the squeegee. Oh, Brent. Okay, we'll take this up, and that needs to come back up like that. Let that film tuck back underneath, and then let's go ahead and go up like this with it. Oh, look at that. Actually, that works really well. So that goes up, goes underneath it, and we get that whole part squeegeed out. All right, let's dry this panel off a bit right here. And then let's go ahead and take this stuff over to the other side, get it out of our way so we can do our final cleaning here on this window. So I'm pushing out on the glass and pulling back on this here and pulling this whole thing out. Okay, now on this side here, I'm pushing out on the glass to get this hopefully to drop right in. Okay, I'm gonna, oh, it did go in pretty easily. Okay, good. I thought I was gonna have to come back and mess with that later because really, I don't ever, it's like never that I put two of those in together to cover the whole bottom. I'm always just working with one of them. I didn't think that was gonna slide in that easily. Dry the panel off where the water potentially came down it, and then let's go ahead and dry the tint off. Now, when you're going with this edge here, make sure that you're going with the edge. You don't want to do this, and you don't want this film to drag that edge because it can catch that edge of the film that's hanging over just the slightest amount and curl that back over. And the problem with curling that over is that obviously you can get contamination in there, but when you're doing it with the towel, you're certainly getting the tiniest little fibers in there. There's and sometimes that's salvageable and sometimes it's not. All right, I'm gonna go ahead just for this video's sake here and run over this one more time with my Teflon card here, and then I'm gonna go ahead and dry this out. I'm gonna do something I don't normally do. Normally I would go and tint the rest of the car and then I would come back at the end and shave this off, but I wanna just take care of this right now. So this blade here and this Olfa knife is only used for shaving the edges. And I've got this, I don't know, Teflon tape type stuff on here so that when I'm doing this, if I happen to hit the film with this metal part of the knife, it doesn't leave a score because it will damage that film where it hits. And so this helps keep it from doing that. And so we're gonna get an angle like this on it. And then we'll go ahead and just shave this top edge off. So I'm just really paying attention. Make sure I'm running across that nice and smooth and straight, and I'm getting good pressure on it. and I'm keeping that my angle. And then let's go ahead and do this one here. Okay, great. There we go. And then I'm gonna go ahead and just wipe that off one more time in case there was any water right there in that edge. Now, I skipped the step, which normally I go over with you guys, that you want to come out and inspect your work. I miss that a lot because I don't do that all the time. I could see from the inside that I believe that this went really well, and I just didn't take the time. But it's important that you come out and inspect your work, because if you did make some kind of mistake that you're not going to be able to live with, you want to find that now so you can take the tint off before it starts leaving glue, and once it gets dry enough, it starts leaving the adhesive on there. And so we'd rather take it off now than half hour from now after getting the rest of the car done. Okay, that looks really good. There's a dot here which I need to touch up. There's a dot there. So I'm not sure what kind of footage we can get on this type of stuff, because I'm not going to go close up because there's really nothing to look at as far as stuff we're pushing down. Some of my videos I'll try to zoom in and get a real good close-up of me correcting these little dots, but I'm just taking this tool here, this I don't know, I call it a push stick, is what we've called them forever. And I take something like this and I'll do this on my shirt with it. You can't see that, something like this, but I don't like to do it on the shirt because it can do damage to the shirt over time. So I'll do it on my pouch, and basically just want to make sure this edge is nice and smooth, because over time these will get a little bit damaged and then they'll start to scratch the tint. And so what I do is I take a tiny little edge of that on the corner and I find a dot. Here we go, and then I just put some pressure on that corner and run over it until it goes away. And I start with less pressure and then I introduce more pressure if the dot doesn't go away. Okay, let's turn this mirror so that, because when you're looking right here, all I can see is the black right here, and then that gives me no reflectiveness to be able to see the silver dots. So I turn that out of the way so that I'm looking at the wall over here, which is much lighter, and that allows everything to turn silver on the dots anyway. Okay, and then there's a tiny little thing right here, a little tiny like kink in the film, and that has some water in it. And so let's see, I keep running over it and pushing it all the way out, but it keeps popping back up, so we're going to put a little heat on that. So let's get a little bit of heat on here, and then just be real careful. You want to keep that heat gun moving around, because if anything starts to get overheated, you want to be able to just immediately get away from there. And then I'm continually feeling the inside of the window there to see how hot it's getting. And once it starts to get pretty warm, then I quit putting heat on the glass, because you don't want to overheat the glass, because then you cause the film to bubble or blister off the glass, and then it leaves air pockets in there, which you can kind of get rid of sometimes, especially if you can reach over here and drag some moisture into them. You can push those air pockets out, but it's a real mess. I mean, you've basically ruined that area. And so sometimes it's a little bit salvageable, and then sometimes it just isn't. So just be careful about that. You don't want to be overheating that glass. Okay, so I'm just taking this edge of this thing, I'm using the whole flat edge there, pushing it over past the edge, and then when I pull back, I'm actually just pulling out this way and over a little. And what that's allowing me to do is make sure that I don't grab that edge and then come back this way, because then you'll bunch up that edge and then you're trying to fix that as well. I'm just kind of feeling this edge here to make sure we don't have anything hanging over that we need to trim off. All right, terrific. Well, that's the process of installing the window tint on this GR86. So hopefully you found something helpful there. I think we pretty much covered everything. And then, like I said, in other parts of this video, we will be having a separate video that goes over the installation of the window tint on the windshield. This is a really cool looking car. Actually, I don't mind the body style on this one. I like it. But anyway, thanks for taking a look. If you found something helpful, please give the video a thumbs up, subscribe, and we'll see you guys on the next one. Alright, so I said I was going to make a separate video on this windshield, but I left my GoPro in the last customer's car. He lives about 45 minutes from us, and he just made it to the freeway from here, and fortunately I noticed it before he got too super far away. Oh my gosh, I'm a real genius sometimes. You guys ever have those days? This car's been going fine, but I just got done with a Mustang, and it was just like not smooth. So anyway, there won't be a video on that car because I gave up halfway through it because I was frustrated. This is a nice way to put it. Anyway, this is a lot of words, but I'm gonna go ahead and point the camera at what I'm doing, and if you want to watch this windshield get done, take a look at that. Otherwise, you know, we've already concluded this video for this car, and this is just a little bit of bonus material. But I'm just gonna play some music right through this and get this install done.